We have a wonderful speaker with us today, Mike Williams. Just bear with me as I do my brief introductory remarks, and then we're going to kick it right over to Mike. Mike Williams serves as the Education Projects Manager for the National Humanities Center. As a former history teacher, he was recognized twice as the Warren County Schools Teacher of the Year and the 2017 Organization of American Historians Tacho National Teacher of the Year. He was also recognized as a 2019 recipient of the K-12 Distinguished Teaching Award from the National Council for Geographic Education. He has published works in the text Family History in the Classroom and When We Were British, and interdisciplinary approaches to visualizing early America. And he was featured as a contributing author in Time Magazine's 25 Moments That Changed History series. He's also presented 2 TEDx talks, Who You, Ancestral Research as a Means of Shaping Identity, I love that, and From Dodge to Diaspora. He has been awarded fellowships through the West Indies Teacher Institute, UNC Duke African Diaspora Fellows Program, and Rural Teachers Global Trust, where his research connected classrooms in London, Scotland, Ghana, and Barbados. He serves in a number of capacities, including executive boards of the Organization of American Historians, National Council for History Education, and UNC Chapel and Duke University Area Studies Teacher Advisory Council. Without further ado, let's turn our attention over to Mike Williams for his presentation. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. And good morning to everyone. I've enjoyed the morning thus far, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you all. I am the Education Projects Manager for the NHC, and we're located in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina. And again, it's equally an honor and a privilege to be here. At the National Humanities Center, I work alongside a stellar group of educators, humanists, and creative minds, one of whom is with us today, and you'll see her in the chat, Meredith Graham, who's our Education Programs digital specialist. So you'll see her in the chat. There are a few links that I'll drop along the way, and so we will go from there. But let me go ahead and share my screen. And as you can tell from my bio, I am truly a teacher. I approach everything from the teacher's lens with the same level of passion and energy. So you all will get a little bit of that today. So let's get started. Okay, and good morning, Steve. It was great talking with you a few weeks ago. Will you give me thumbs up? I can see your panel. Will you give me thumbs up if you can see my screen? Very good. All right. Okay, so while my talk is based on the importance of the humanities, and the working title is the importance of the humanities during these times, I was moved by the theme of this conference and my personal connection to current classroom teachers, to be a little more specific, to be a little more attentive and responsive with the title of this session, hence the title of Crisis, Courage, and Humanity. I want to begin by saying thank you to the Connecticut Council for the Social Studies. You know, as I was preparing for this talk, you know, I kept looking at teaching social studies with courage. And there were a number of inspiring adages, quotes, and ideas that came to me, but one of which I came across was by author Mary Ann Radmacher, who said that courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. You know, courage doesn't roar, but sometimes at the end of the day, it's that voice that says that. And oftentimes for our teachers, these words are spoken at 3:15, sitting in a now quiet classroom with the desks all rearranged, or driving home right before daylight savings when the time of day and the darkness of the sky just don't seem to line up. Many of you are seeing that right now, or staring at a stack of ungraded papers, sink full of dishes at the end of the day, or even a DVR full of 3 unwatched seasons or 2 of Ted Lasso. But at the end of the day, they do. And for that, Again, I say thank you, also commending you all on your support and your commitment to Connecticut's history and social studies educators, specifically your pledge to support all of Connecticut's history and social studies educators in the effort to teach historical facts, assess evidence, and engage students in discussions about the past and how it informs the present. And I'm sure this is not just in word, but it is in deed, because you all are in the trenches. But this is essentially the heart of the humanities-based work. It's teaching, it's assessing, it's engaging. Also, kudos for your support of the AHA's statement, which challenges us all to learn from our history. We must confront it, understand it in all its messy complexity. That's like something I'm going to plaster on my wall. I love that, messy complexity, because that's what it is. Messy complexity, and take responsibility as much for our failures as our accomplishments. Messy complexity. So a little bit of information about who we are. So as the education project manager, I manage ongoing educational projects, digital offerings, and professional development, with an emphasis primarily as of late on developing the Humanities in Class online course catalog. Actually, Meredith and I, we've been working consistently over the past few months to roll out the current set of courses and the courses that we offered in the spring. But the NHC was founded in 1978, and for 43 years, we were the only institution devoted exclusively to advanced humanities. We have 3 primary divisions: scholarly programs, education programs, public programs, which also includes institutional advancement. But at the center, our education program serves as a nexus between our scholars and educators. Every day, our goal is to build bridges between the scholarly world and the everyday classroom. We support educators at all levels, with a large majority being at the K-12 level, but increasingly we do have collegiate and graduate level educators as well. And we build connections to that scholarly world in the classroom in a variety of ways, which includes a repository of online lessons and resources, webinars, and of course the courses. Our work is based in the strong belief that humanities education encourages students to think creatively and critically, to reason and ask questions. And as the humanities offer insight into nearly every aspect of life, they've been considered a core element of a well-rounded education since ancient times. If you all will indulge me, I have a brief video I'd like to show. If the audio doesn't come through, please let me know.
Bridges. They inspire us even as they allow us to connect with one another, promoting the exchange of ideas and resources as they help us make our way across difficult terrain. For over 40 years, education programs from the National Humanities Center have been creating bridges too, linking the academic world with the working classroom, integrating scholarly content, inquiry-based pedagogy, and emerging technologies. NHC education programs encourage the growth of education professionals in ways that directly impact the classroom by using a project-based approach that encourages innovation and supports the development of classroom-ready instructional materials and learning experiences. Teachers understand that humanities learning is not merely about absorbing information, it's about a way of knowing, helping their students develop habits of mind that allow them to better navigate the complexities of the world, build successful careers, and lead richer, more meaningful lives. Every year, thousands of educators from around the country attend live webinars and in-depth courses created and led by scholarly experts, while hundreds of thousands more access the freely available scholarly and instructional resources that can be found in our Humanities in Class digital library. Now accessible through our open educational resource platform, the Humanities in Class repository contains the highest quality humanities education content in an environment that not only allows easy access, but encourages active interaction with the materials and the opportunity to engage and share with other educators. These opportunities to connect, to exchange ideas and materials, and to draw inspiration from other experts with a shared passion for the humanities are just some of the ways educators at all levels can benefit from the educational offerings at the National Humanities Center. Visit us at nationalhumanitiescenter.org/education programs to learn more and join us in building bridges for future generations.
For those of you who are monitoring the chat, there are a series of links to the digital library, to our main website, virtual and on-site programming that's included as well, if you'd like to take a look at that. Also, I'll have my email available at the end of this presentation as well. So for starters, my roadmap for today has three major points that I hope to cover in the time that I have. First, I'll begin by acknowledging the teachers of today, by situating the courageous teacher in contemporary conflict, and conflict obviously has numerous interpretations. But next, we'll follow the guidance of one of our champions of history, our champions of humanity and justice, and recognizing ordinary people and extraordinary vision, humanizing history to navigate the present and imagine the future. And then the value of the humanities, or the importance of the humanities, illuminating the lived human experience within the pursuit of knowledge. We can equally say situating it within the human experience, but that's what I hope to cover with you all. So we'll get started. Of crisis. Reality of 2020-2021 for teachers has largely been wrought with questions, inquiries, and worries about that intractable contemporary problems that include global pandemics, strains of social inequality, climate emergency, political unrest, to name just a few. As teachers start their days and weeks, they're faced with the constant ambient noise of public and political hostility resonating from various forms of media, all while trying to plan out their day from 7:45 to 3:15. And for teachers faced with so many demands, we wonder how is it that they can remain courageous during these times, these crises. Patrick Anderson, who wrote a book entitled The Quarter-Life Crisis, which looks at the transition between childhood and adulthood, and the numerous responsibilities that young adults take on after leaving college, talks about the fact that a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. It should give people, institutions, and politicians the necessary courage to implement change. So again, we're going back to that word, courage. Courage. I keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on with my fellow teachers in a number of ways. As I'm now in the classroom, I get a lot of stories from my awesome wife, who's a middle school teacher, and of course via social media groups. And so you can tell from how this will populate on the page, probably which social media platform I'm using for this one. But I was scrolling through my social media feed and I came across a post from a teacher from North Carolina who posted an online group, the question, the statement, why am I here? Why do I stay? And, you know, she posted it to uplift and encourage a lot of teachers who are down in the dumps. But she said, good morning. In the midst of all the educators face today, I read these short but thought-provoking questions. Today, I hope all educators, all support staff, all bus drivers center their motivation within these questions, with these questions. And then next up, the first response had to be from the veteran teacher with the perfectly organized lesson plans, that notebook that spans 180 days of activities, vibrant walls, and impeccable class management. But thanks to every teacher, I know the days are long and often hard, but never forget why you chose this career. You're making a difference in the lives of kids. On the other end of the spectrum, the response comes in, maybe from the realists. I ask this question every day about life in general, and I have no good answers. Why am I here? While we wrestle with the effects of the pandemic and social strife, more and more teachers are leaving the classroom. Earlier this year, a RAND survey found that nearly 1/4 of teachers indicated a desire to leave their jobs at the end of the school year. Compared to before then, it was only 16%. That's, if we look at it, 3.2 million teachers in our country, over 800,000 won't walk back into the classroom next year. In spite of that, The majority of you, as the quote, or your contemporaries, your colleagues, as I said earlier, will try again. The images that are populating the screen are from EDU Images, which is a free library of photos celebrating students and educators who teach them. For those of you in or around Middleton, Connecticut, you may see familiar faces because that district is participating in that as well. But the beauty of the work that these teachers are doing and the collections that are curing these images focus on the highlights and the lived experiences of the individual, the ordinary teacher in their ordinary classroom, the ordinary sanitized, socially distanced, elbow greeting at the doorway classroom. I will try again tomorrow because of his why. A why that was birthed somewhere between a TikTok video and the end of Mama's 6 o'clock news, where someone said letters like LGBTQ, BLM, FEMA, FEMA, FBI, or numbers like 846, or dates like January 6th. His why is why we try again tomorrow. Ordinary people, extraordinary vision. Admittedly, you know, when I was in the classroom, I would listen to John Legend's Ordinary People every day. And so as I was writing this, I was singing it in my head. Those of you who know it, you're probably singing it right now. But Ordinary People, Extraordinary Vision. In his final letter to America, Congressman Lewis handed us, and this is our segue into our humanities talk, but John Lewis handed us instructions on how to think through the importance of history and the human experience, which is the core of the humanities. His powerful and resonant declaration was that ordinary people with extraordinary vision can redeem the soul of our nation. Equally so, scholar and historian Dr. Uhuru Williams at the University of Minnesota expanded on this and clarifying that we need to study history not simply to understand the past, but as a conduit for navigating the present and imagining the future. Studying the past is one of the ways we can develop this extraordinary vision. The letter goes on to say that you must also study and learn the lessons of history because humanity has been involved in this soul-wrenching existential struggle for a very long time. People on every continent have stood in your shoes through decades and centuries before you. The truth does not change. And that is why the answers worked out long ago can help you find solutions to the challenges of our time. Continue to build union between movements stretching across the globe because we must put away our willingness to profit from the exploration of others. And I'm going to pause and apologize. I have a puppy outside who doesn't like fire trucks. And so he's outside singing to one right now. But ours, teacher flexibility. But to break it down even further, he focuses on the fact that you must also study and learn the lessons of history because humanity has been involved. What's noteworthy is that he didn't say humans. He didn't say human beings. He didn't say one person or individual, humanity. In essence, the great congressman was pointing out the need and the importance of humanizing while historicizing, which, interesting enough, extends the mandate of Frederick Jameson, who once said, "We must historicize." But the great congressman extended it by incorporating humanity in the contemporary lived experiences of us all. And as I'm reading it, the principles that I find throughout the letter, among so many others, is that we should always find humanity in history. Always emphasize the importance of historical context, as was stated many times this morning, but we should also embrace the universal nature of the human experience and recognize that truth is unchanging. This is how the ordinary social studies teacher achieves the extraordinary by humanizing while historicizing. On September 29th, 1965, President Lyndon Johnson signed the National Foundation on the Arts and Humanities Act of 1965 into law. At that time, a codified definition of humanities will be found in Title 20, Chapter 26 of the United States Code, Title 20 being education, Chapter 26 being the support and scholarship in humanities and arts of the US Code. Typically when you ask someone, and I'm guilty of this as well, what are the humanities? You get a list of content areas, and I'm guilty of that as well. And a list of subjects or disciplines, and this definition starts the same. It includes but not is limited to the study and interpretation of following language, modern and classical linguistics, and goes down to the theory of art. But it also gets into, obviously, and we can all read through this, but the methods, the methodology of the humanity, those aspects of social sciences which have humanistic content and employ humanistic methods, and the study and application of the humanities to human environments, with particular attention to reflecting our diverse heritage, traditions, and histories, and to the relevance of humanities to the current conditions of life. Humanistic methods. In fact, the human experience can't be captured by just numbers and figures alone. Humanistic methods employ historical, interpretive, and analytical approaches. It's looking at our problems collaboratively from different perspectives. It's interrogating, it's testing, it's challenging as a way of engaging with and interpreting the world around us. The term humanistic inquiry also focuses on quotes like, the humanities involve inquiry into consciousness, values, ideas, and ideals in an effort to describe how experiences shape our understanding of the world. And what we'll do is we'll do a quick little example of a humanistic inquiry based on a single image. But in the image above, we'll take a look at it. Some of you all may know it. But it's just a standard river, from the immediate inspection, but it's the Anacostia River, which is located in Washington, D.C. We'll look at how the historical, interpretive, and analytical approaches of humanities interact with the sciences as well as social sciences to contribute to our understanding of the world. So the Anacostia, again, is located in Washington, D.C. In examining the image, a scientist would study the river's wildlife, the fish, the surrounding vegetation, and ecology. More recently, they'll probably look at the detrimental effects of the pollution, which is daily being dumped into this area, all in an attempt to objectively describe the river itself. This is just another map of where it's located. You have the National Gallery of Art, which is located right there. But if you go down the Potomac and you split to the right, that's where it's located, that branch of it. A social scientist, perhaps a sociologist, might study the river's contribution as a branch of the Potomac to the growth of the capital city. And more recently, missing a slide, okay. And more recently, the social scientists would take a look at maybe exclusionary redlining patterns between that actually exist within the city in and of itself, where the Anacostia actually serves as a dividing line between the two different parts of the city as well. The historian who often bridges the gap between the social science and humanities might report on the importance of the Anacostia to indigenous histories, and or conversely, John Smith's later exports to that area. If you look here in the red circle, that's where the Anacostia is roughly located on that map. Or the historian might focus on Cedar Hill, the estate of renowned abolitionist Frederick Douglass, which is not far from the Anacostia River. And it was his final resting place when he passed away in 1895. And just other maps that included as well. But when I referenced earlier, the Anacostia serving as a dividing line. If you look at the images on the screen there, you will see immediately to the right, located in blue, the blue represents the Black populations of Washington, D.C., and the red represents the primarily white populations of Washington, D.C. And more recently, there was an article that was written that discussed that. But moving ahead, a humanist, how would the humanist take a look at it? The humanists might write about the actual experiences of the people who, the experiences people had in or around the Anacostia, the Nashkontonk indigenous population who were displaced and later became extinct as a result of, as I mentioned before, is one scholar noted it as the first gentrification. They might write about John Smith's exploits into the area, or DC residents on both sides of the dividing line, whether in text or musically, from the sound of artists like Chuck Brown and the go-go movement that was birthed in Southeast DC, or via our new favorite form of media, the podcast. These same residents in projects like Anacostia Unmapped, an American University podcast series about the river and land. And here are some of the titles from the series. You have Aunt Helen's Eyes on the Street, Meet the New Neighbors, The Settler and the Map, In Go-Go's Pocket, which again talks about that musical form. But it follows a humanistic approach to understanding the lived experiences of these residents who witness the effects of land displacement, gentrification, with questions like, of the land, who has the land, who wants it, modes of inquiry, what happens when it starts to change hands, or even more importantly, who gets to tell the stories? Who gets to tell the stories about this? This particular podcast focuses on the people who live and work in Southeast DC neighborhood. And so you're starting with the singular image of the river. But without humanistic inquiry and works of imaginative literature or illuminating podcasts like Anacostia Unmapped, we have difficulty truly understanding lived human experiences of people within these environments. These work contribute to our understanding, immersing us in these lived experiences, and beginning with the Nash Kuntunk, the indigenous tribe, beginning with them, but situating us across different times and places from our own contemporary view. Interestingly enough, while science does an awesome job of giving us the what and the how, the outside, the external, the humanities give us the why, the inside, the internal knowledge. And that, among so many things, is the value of the humanities and humanistic approaches. Humanities in class. At the NHC, our goal is to embed both humanistic content and methodology in the Humanities in Class online course series. I, along with my team, hold on, I'm going to go here. Okay. I'm off on my slides here. Hold on, I'm going to go back. But you will note from this slide here, I, along with my team, we commit a number of hours per week developing this catalog of the courses that you see here. Designed to be highly interactive, each course extends other aspects of our program, like the webinars, like our digital assets, institutes, by inviting participants to work with lead scholars and conduct research with sources and data, and apply this to their own teaching environments over a 6-week period in a largely asynchronous environment. At the end of each course, our participants earn 35 hours of CEU credit. On the screen, you will note that we have a range of topics. As you review the slide, you will note the courses range from medieval African history, which is currently our most popular offering, with roughly 300 international participants who've enrolled since January. That medieval Africa and Africans course was created with the partnership and with the support and partnership of the Medieval Academy of America. But the courses range from there to contemporary music, as well as civil discourse. For all of our district leaders who may be here today, just know that we also partner with organizations and districts to offer group rates or your own designated section to be run during a time that works best for your district at a discounted rate. For example, we're currently working with a group of educators from Melbourne, Australia in our Medieval Africa course. But here are a few examples of other courses that we offer as well. And we are in the chat right now, so if you have any questions about any of them, please feel free. But let's talk about the value of humanities and how this focus on humanistic inquiry and methodology is embedded in our courses. The Where of Why, GIS and Humanities class. The primary course image is that you see right there is of the John Snow cholera map. If I don't know if many of you have seen it before, but in 1854, Snow was one of the first people to use spatial analysis and data collection to trace the source of the cholera outbreak during that time. And he was able to trace it back to the Broad Street water pump, which is shown in this image. And so you see the data points in this area in the center of the map, which is where the Broad Street pump, but everyone was confused and didn't understand the source, and he was able to map it using an early form of spatial analysis, what has now become our geographic information systems. But the course focuses on the technology, but it also focuses on studying methods for incorporating GIS in the classroom. It provides historical context as well for understanding infectious diseases and pandemics, interestingly enough, timely. This heightened understanding during the current pandemic also lets teachers and students know that humanity has weathered this storm before, and we made it through. From the 60s to now, using music to explore issues of race, gender, and sexuality in contemporary American history. And I always like the first line of the description that says, what does Gil Scott-Heron, Bikini Kill, and Beyonce all have in common? So, but we delve into that in that course as well. But from the 60s to now was developed in partnership with the Teach Rock or Rock and Roll Forever Foundation, which is, of course, headed by Stevie Van Zandt. But the course uses music from the 1960s to now to explore issues of race, gender, and sexuality in the 21st century. And so I have to give props to our digital specialist on this recommendation. The person who you see on the screen here is actually Shay Diamond. A simple lesson on the queer community incorporates the work of transgender singer Shay Diamond, who recently released I Am America, which has been described as an anthem of love, joy, and acceptance. According to Billboard, the song is one that wasn't afraid to fly in the face of those who would detract from queer people, transgender people, or people of color. And speaking of the impact of the song, Shay Diamond states that to be in community and to get to represent ourselves in a hopeful, accurate kind of way lets the world know we are actually here. They will know that what we went through. They will know that we were victorious. They will know about the struggle all through the music we represent. Note the language, hopeful, accurate. They will know, they will know. Lastly, we have 2 courses that will be offered for the first time beginning in November. And for Connecticut teachers, I'm going to put a promo code in the chat. The promo code is CCSS21. But we partnered with the New York Historical Society to offer a course entitled Women of the Americas, Early Encounters and Entangled Histories. This course disrupts narratives that focus exclusively on the history of men by exploring the lives of European, Indigenous, and African-descended women during the 16th through early 18th centuries. The course covers the lives of women from a variety of backgrounds who were integral to the development of Spanish, Dutch, English, and French colonial societies in North America. In the course, you'll be introduced to pioneering women such as Malincine, Spanish colony, Sor Catalina Trico, and Thomasine Hall of the English colonies. Hall, who presented as both male and female at different points of their lives, came to the Virginia colony as an indentured servant, and at different times worked on a tobacco plantation, doing labor of both male and female divine positions at different points. The next course, Abigail and John Adams, exploring early US history through the life of an American couple. This course was developed with the support of the Grateful American Foundation. The course follows Abigail Adams' directive of Remember the Ladies by exploring the lives of women and men during the late colonial period in British North America, the American Revolution, early years of nation formation, and John Adams' presidency. Their lived experience and their involvement in public service provide a lens for examining the social and political changes that grip the land currently known as the United States of America. This course also examines the strong legacy of their work in the life of John Q. Adams and his pivotal work in the landmark case, United States v. Schooner Amistad as well. Again, we encourage you to spread the word. I also have, I will say, for the WAMS course and the, I say WAMS course, I'm sorry, that's what we use. It's the Women of the Americas course, as well as the Abigail and John. I have 2 complimentary registrations for both. And so I'll do it like a little exit ticket here shortly. Actually, I'll do it now as a transition while I'm thinking about it. So the first person who can tell me when the National Humanities Center was founded, what year, we'll go ahead and email you a free complimentary registration for, actually a complimentary registration for any of our courses, but we would encourage you all to check out. All right, Stephen, very good, 1978. All right, very, very good, very, very good. And Meredith, thank you for filling that question in the chat as well. All right, so I have that one as well, okay? And then there may be a few other questions that we'll have as I finish up. But yes, 1978. Let's do another one. This is a fairly simple one. Where is the center located? What city? What city is the National Humanities Center located in? Everyone's Googling. Thank you, Laura. Research Triangle. Allison, you were close, so I'll send you one as well. I'll be sure. And actually, Meredith, if you will, since I'm talking, if you will you write down those names as well? Laura, you've been to the center? Oh, you've been to RTP?
Yes, I have. For the there was a Thomas Day Institute down there, yes. And we were able to go to the center then.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, very, very good. Yeah, that will work. And let's go ahead and Meredith, if you'll write those names down, and I'll go ahead and put my email address in the chat. I'll have it at the end of the talk, but I'll make sure you get those free registrations. All right, that's that. I'm gonna have one more. I'll give away at the end. But these courses, we're very passionate about them, and we're constantly, fielding questions from our teachers and getting feedback about the issues that are concerning them in the humanities within their class as well. And you also can follow the work that we're doing in our Humanities in Class webinar series. And through our webinar series, educators develop a personal connection with a center that frequently leads them to join other programs and share information about the NHC with colleagues and peers. The webinar session topics are developed in response to curricular gaps, as well as evidence, as well as relevance to contemporary and compelling issues. Increasingly, we're finding that as we focus on including the voices of diverse audience, we're delving into more themes of social justice, racial equity, representation, as well as identity. Our Humanities in Class digital library serves as the primary entry point for all programs. And this is a free library, but you will note that the library includes essays, video recordings, training materials, as well as instructional resources. It includes online digital resources such as our Humanities in Class series, Teacher Served Primary Source Toolbox, all of which account for nearly 4 million unique visitors annually. Launched a little over a year ago, this open education resource platform is attracting a diverse and new audience for our work at both K-12 and increasingly more post-secondary level. So please, there's a link in the chat. We would encourage you to check that out as well. Do well, do good. As I conclude, and there's a few more slides here we're going to talk about, it's important to emphasize the humanities are about understanding, celebrating, and studying what it means to be human. To quote our director, Robert Newman, the humanities teach us that we must discover the heroic we all carry within so that we can live better and more impactful lives. We access the humanities through stories that reveal our complexities, our aspirations, and our tragic flaws. We must do well while doing good. And his statement is, this is the core of what the humanities is all about, doing well while doing good. As we actively promote the importance of historical contextualization, let's be mindful of the thread of humanity that extends throughout. Let's be mindful to understand the critical and impactful work of our ordinary teachers with extraordinary vision, those who dare to hope and show up every day, even in crisis, with courage and with a clear understanding of humanistic content and methods, with a keen eye towards the importance of humanity. I would encourage you all to also check out our Humanities Moments project. And this was created by the NHC in an effort to gather, store, and share personal accounts. So our team sits down with someone and they'll have a personal account about an experience, humanities moments when their lives were made richer, more poignant, and meaningful because of the insights the humanities provide. We access them through stories and images and conversation on pages while we're reading something, while we're studying history. But these encounters that reveal our complexities, our aspirations, and our tragic flaws. When you're doing a humanities moment, whether you're reflecting on your personal experience or on national history, it's the humanities moments, and I quote, that are most resonant, most epiphanic, and to which we continually return to mark who we are and as a culture. And the last slide, it's 10:42 now, so right at 45 minutes. To conclude, I share this clip from a recent webinar, James Baldwin's America and Ours Today, with Dr. Eddie Glaude, who's the chair of the African American Studies Department at Princeton. The webinar was held a little over a month ago, and it's an hour and 16 minutes long, but this is a clip. This is just a clip of it, but it was held on September 16, 2021. He had the assistance of actually a Connecticut teacher who was on our NHC Teacher Advisory Council. Her name is Tisha Hooks, for those who are familiar with it, but Tisha serves on our Teacher Advisory Council. But this last few minutes of his talk is akin to a humanities moment in that it allows us to more fully appreciate where we came from and where we are going.
Given all the crises that we face in contemporary America, Professor, where do you turn for a sense of hope, for that fierce love that Baldwin wrote so powerfully about?
Well, I try to gesture at it at the end. It's an abiding faith in us, in the capacity of human beings to do the miraculous. But I also think about the tradition out of which I come. And I'll use this as a quick example. In the context of slavery, Andy, there was nothing about the condition of slavery that would lead the enslaved to believe that she would ever live a life other than that of a slave. Nothing. But then there would be the moment where a man in front of her, or a woman, and you can see a glimmer of love in their eyes. Even amid the pain in their face, you can see love. Or you can hear, right, the sound of innocence of children who will more than likely experience a level of brutality that was unimaginable for children. But it's in that moment, that glimmer of love, that sound of innocence, that possibility, right, came into view. And then you were able to look beyond the darkness of the hour to imagine yourself otherwise. If they could survive and keep fighting and keep dreaming, I can have faith in us to do the same.
Given all the crises that
All right. Thank you for listening. My goal was to focus on about 45 minutes and stay within that time, and then leave some time for discussion, leave some time for questions. And I guess a question I have is I see a number of faces here who are in the audience. Do we have anyone who teaches at the elementary or middle school level? Or are we all administrative officers, district officials who are here today, Tony? I'm in the middle school. All right, Stephen, we already gave, okay, so we gave you your complimentary registration. Laura, I think we have
I'm also in the middle school.
Okay, who is that?
Ed.
Ed, all right, Ed, we have a complimentary registration for you as well. Please email me at mwilliams@nationalhumanitiescenter.org, and I will send you a registration, complimentary registration as well. And so, yes, and Meredith, if you will write down those names, also include Kelly as well, so we can reach out and be in contact with her as well. So, but yeah, if there are any questions, I can go on and on, about the work that we're doing at the center. It's very, very forward thinking, and most recently, we have been focusing on a lot more work that's a lot more inclusive, and so you'll see it in our marketing, you'll see it in our content areas. But it focuses on bringing in diverse experiences, bringing in multiple perspectives in the work that we're doing, and content-based work, as well as the methodological approaches as well. So please check out the offerings. Please check out a lot of the materials that we have available. And if I can be of assistance, please do not hesitate to reach out to me so that I can provide whatever resources or assistance that I have. Equally so, Dr. Meredith Graham is also an asset as well. Yes.
Mike,
Right.
Oh, thank you for doing that.
Go ahead, Steve, please.
could I ask, this is Steve, Mike, thanks for coming today, by the way.
Hey, thank you for inviting me.
Could you give me your elevator pitch? You've done it sort of in this whole talk, but when I have to convince somebody that the humanities are as important as STEM, what's your elevator pitch talk on that?
Yeah, I did kind of talk about it a little bit.
You did, but I mean, can you summarize 40 minutes in one sentence? I know that's impossible, but this is something that I have to face a lot, as far as competing, priorities in schools and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As I said earlier, I think when we focus a lot on technology, which is premised on answering the hows and the whats, but to get to the heart of the whys, it requires a commitment to the breadth of learning, pursuit of knowledge, and the ability to interrogate, test, and challenge from multiple perspectives. One example that I hear from our director when he talks about the fact that no, the humanities cannot cure cancer, but without the ability to listen, to connect with the patient, certain things like early detection or incorporating their stories or their lived experiences, we wouldn't be able to either get to the part where we are focusing on the hows and the whats. So it goes to the core of the human experience. And I know that right now, you're right, STEM has been dominated in so many ways, but the connecting tissue among it all is housed in the humanities, I believe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I was very happy with this presentation today. Thank you so much, Mr. Williams. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm seeing head nods across the panel here. I do have a question for you, though. So at one point you had said that humanities looks at this is a summary of what you had said. Humanities looks at the relevance to the current condition. How do you suggest that teachers navigate the current politicized nature of history and humanities, especially with disparate conceptions of the current condition?
Very good question. Good, very good question. I think it's, so you have the content naturally and you'll focus on it. And I mean, particularly at the high school and post-secondary levels where it's very much content driven. But I think it's encouraging students to challenge, promoting multiple ways of inquiry or multiple modes of inquiry, whether it's reading historical texts, strengthening student understanding of those texts, but allowing them to engage in those methodologies that are fundamental to it, problem solving, bridging connections between disparate topics, argumentative clarity, evidence-based analysis. So it's the methods that go to it that gets lost in it, because the convenient definition is like the beginning of the US Code's definition. It's listing out the specific content areas, but the habits of thinking, the mindsets, the way of thinking through the problems and coming up with comprehensive approaches that stem from the humanistic perspective. It's just those habits of mind and ways of thinking, ways of knowing that I think will help us as we confront these issues, because there's always going to be conflict, but the question is going to be how we respond, as a nation, as a culture, to that conflict. That's the greater concern.
Thank you for that. We do have just a couple more minutes here. I do have one more question for you, though. As you had said several times in your talk, humanities gives us the why, and we know that the why is the driving force behind purpose. My question is actually two-part. Number one, what would you say is your why for the work that you do? And then what do you think could be the why for educators attempting to teach humanities and social studies with courage?
Oh my goodness, that is a great question.
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
Listen, man, I'll be honest with you. We could be here like all day talking about my whys, dude. But, and it gets into almost like, humanities moments as well. And interestingly enough, earlier I kind of giggled when you mentioned the TEDx talk, Who You? Which is like an internal challenge. It's like, who you? You meet a guy on the streets, he's like, who you? But I grew up well below the poverty line. I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. Neither one of my parents graduated from high school. And, my why is still in a classroom in a rural community, even though I'm not with them there every day. But my why has always been to teach a usable history that will allow them to make sense of all that is going on. A usable, an accurate, and an honest history, and that's the core of courageous teaching. I was telling one of my buddies, I was like, doing a talk, I'm excited about it, et cetera, et cetera. And we were talking, got really into it, and then he ended just one liner. He's the guy with one liner. He was like, hey man, I said, yeah, telling the truth shouldn't be courageous. I was like, I unpacked it. But that's largely my why. It's born of an experience the way I get constant reminders that there are students who are grappling with these questions, and the humanities in so many ways, have been illuminating and have been accessible to their experience, whether it's in some ancient text or the new Kendrick Lamar song that comes out that describes their experiences. You know what I mean? Like, so that's that. But for our teachers, it's just being there. Their why. It's difficult. It's difficult for me to say that, exactly what their why should be. But that little boy's hand, that cute little face, that that encourages them to look past the administrative micromanaging and hostility coming from parents because of mask mandates, particularly down here in the South, and I'm sure it's all over the country, or questions about what CRT is and why are you making, why are you advancing study that might make my student a little uncomfortable? That kid is still going to have that question at the end of the day. So the why is somewhere there. So,
well, thank you so much.
Thank you
for your wonderful remarks today. On behalf of the Connecticut Council for Social Studies and all of our attendees, we appreciate you. We'll be looking forward to getting into some more of those programs that you were promoting earlier.
Oh yeah. And teachers, we will send me the email, and we have your names down, and we'll figure out how we can get in contact with you and get you in some courses.
Fantastic. All right. At this point, what we're going to do is we are going to take another couple minutes. I'm seeing a lot of clapping happening in the from the attendees right now. So we're going to take a couple minute break. We're going to start right at 11 o'clock with our next presenter, Natasha Scott. So she's already here on deck. So just give us a couple minutes to kind of transition out, and we'll be ready to go. Again, thank you again, Mike Williams, for everything you shared with us today. It was really, really fantastic and inspirational.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
See you soon.
All right.